Hey everyone, Nick Engvall here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about some of the people that make the sneaker history community and this podcast possible. It's more important than ever to think about who you give your money to when you're buying clothing to go with your kicks. Our friends at Guilty Goods started their brand with a goal of giving back, especially to the communities that make sneaker culture possible. With every purchase from Guilty Goods, at least 10% of the proceeds are donated to organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the Susan G. Komen Foundation, the Movement for Black Lives, and many more. You can save 30% on your order by using the code HISTORY at guiltygoods.us. Again, that's history at guiltygoods.us for 30% off, and you can feel good about your purchase knowing you're supporting a meaningful cause. Sneakers are all about presentation, and if you're like me, displaying your kicks at home or in the office is just as important as when they're on your feet. Sneaker Throne makes sneaker display cases featuring customizable LED lights, drop-side cases to showcase the entire side of the shoe, not just the heel or the toe, the whole shoe. They've also got display cases for trading card collectors and hat collectors. To me, it's the perfect way to display your collection. You can save at least 10% on your Sneaker Throne order by using the code HISTORY at sneakerthrone.com. That's history at sneakerthrone.com. If you're a Patreon supporter or a member of our Discord community, you already know about Kicks with V hot sauce and his small batch, locally sourced hot sauce. V has been one of the biggest supporters of sneaker history and the podcast since the early days. He's currently the defending champion in our community trivia nights competition. Kicks with V hot sauce has been a huge hit with the community. You can save 10% on your order by using the code SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. That's SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. Now, you're probably here because you like sneakers, and if you join the Discord, you know our community is about so much more than that. Whether it's the marathon-like community calls, trivia night debates, the in-person meetups, or just sharing our favorite experiences, we found that although we have such different backgrounds, we all have some unexpected shared passions. Not only does the entire community look out for each other when it comes to releases, we're like a support group for life in general. You can join the Discord community for free by heading to the show notes of this episode. After you're done listening to this episode, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Now let's get into today's episode.
To shake off starts. Oh, what a LeBron James with no regard for human life. Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Iverson against Gill, the crowd on its feet. Allen for the win.
Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast.
What up, what up? Welcome back to the Sneaker History Podcast. My name's Nick Engvall. I'm with my guy, Robbie Falchi, to talk some kicks. We got some rocking and copping. We got some news. We got some interesting topics to dive into, and we're just going to jump right into it. What's good, man? How you been?
I'm good. I've been eating nonstop these little King's Hawaiian rolls with bacon, red onion, tomato, and a pineapple slice. How do you feel about that?
God, my mouth is salivating right now.
I just
That
crushed
sounds
one
amazing.
before we started recording. I was like, oh,
Sounds
there's one more in
amazing.
the fridge.
Yeah, I might have to make that. I might have to make that happen this weekend. That sounds so good.
So I'm too good. It's like 6 ingredients and it's all like it's cutting. It's super easy. How are you though?
Yep. I'm good, man. I'm good. I guess I'm hungrier than I thought I was now that you said that. But life's good. Can't complain. Finally kind of getting back into like a normal flow of things. So I'm ready to get back to recording more frequently. I feel like it's just been like forever since I had like a consistent recording schedule,
It's tough to maintain, and it's tough when there's 4 people, many kids involved with that now at this point. So it's just a lot of families, a lot of stuff going on, but happy to have you here. And yeah, we're going to talk some news, right? Some very general stuff. A couple of things that's been burning on my mind. I'll just get it started with rocking and copping. So only 2 of us here. I kind of got a little greedy with what I've been rocking, but there's 2 different phases in my days nowadays. So still on the Nano 2 Wonder Woman Reebok, got a personal trainer and I wear these twice a week. I absolutely love these shoes. Have had many people tell me the Nano 3 is even better. So we'll have to see about that. I'm not a huge, I'm not a big guy. So I'm not like really comparing all these different gym shoes. To me, the Nano 2 is great. I don't have a lot of comparison, but I'm also not hyper athletic. So I don't need all the speed.
I got to say that Wonder Woman theme is one of the better, like tastefully done. I don't want to like discredit some of the maybe Marvel characters that are out there, DC characters, where they've gone just a little too far in trying to like tell a story through the colorways. That one is done, I think, as good as you could possibly make a superhero themed sneaker.
I feel like the world's biggest 8-year-old, where I feel like I'm just like, look at how fast I am in my shoes. I'm still slow. But then on the flip, I've been wearing these the past couple of days. Kobe questions. Nice. I had a light discussion with Mike about those. At this point, the amount of questions in the past 3 years is like a bag of Skittles, but like there's now tropical Skittles, there's traditional Skittles, there's like every flavor of Skittles. But a lot of Skittles, man. Shout out Marshawn. So, and then I've been trying to run more still in the Monster. I actually am a dork and I do clean the white walls. Like these get worn a good amount. Don't get it twisted. White walls on shoes that are dirty bother the hell out of me. So I'm a weirdo.
That's fair.
High utility, but gotta keep them clean.
Yeah.
And
you got another one?
I have the last one. And then the flip to that. I've been wearing the blue,
nice.
Blue the goats, blue the great.
Blue the great, yeah.
Jordan 1 mid, the only Jordan 1 mid I'll ever love, and the only one I do. I know the only Jordan 1 mid I have ever owned. I have one pair of lows, one pair of mids, and then a shit ton of OG highs, but diversity in the ones. You got to have at least one pair of mids. Yeah. How about you? I didn't cop anything. Sorry.
You didn't cop anything
those
at
are all
all?
the things I just been wearing. But I went really fast. Right. Copping is an easy one, also very fast. On this release, the Cloud Surfer shoe that has this new cloud tech phase that kind of like, it looks like a wave, hence the surfer, but the little cloud windows aren't in this like a perfect symmetrical line or staggered line. They look like a crashing wave. Super clean looking. I'm a little hesitant on the branding across the tongue. Listeners, check out the Cloud Surfer, see if it's for you. But like the side photos on foot, they'll be great. But I want to get a pair of Cloud Surfers. That's now 5 shoes for rocking and copping, but I'm done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I only came with 2, so this will be a lot quicker. But
sorry,
both of them are actually recent cops too. So I've basically been wearing this Adidas Hyperturf Adventure to death. It was $40. It was actually less than $40 at the outlet. Just a cool, like, orange hits, always a good thing. You can kind of see it's dirty as hell. So I have not cleaned the white walls on it at all, but it's been raining quite a bit here, so kind of muddy anyway. Not worth the time right now. But another cop from the outlet. I know this might be very, controversial in the sneakerhead world, but Allbirds, Adidas. Guess how much I paid for these? I can't remember what retail was, like $80 or $100 or something. It wasn't expensive.
I want to say $24.99.
$9.99.
$9.99.
No matter how much you might hate Allbirds as a sneakerhead, which seems to be a common thing.
Bring one just back up again. Is one of them
in the sneakerverse? They're tied together, but yeah.
Oh, that's why they were $9.99.
Super lightweight. Well, I mean, they're they were on the clearance rack, right? But like, I don't know. You can't pass a $10 shoe. Like, you just can't pass that up. Like, even if I buy it, wear it once, see how it is, and like donate it, I feel like I'm justified in spending $10.
Yeah. Damn.
Especially for something that's kind of interesting, where it's like, hey, that was a weird collab. Like, I mean, it's not important in the sneakerhead world. A lot of people don't like Allbirds because it's very generic and very tech bro and all of those stereotypes. But to see it for $10, I mean, I couldn't not give it a shot. So I'm going to wear those this weekend, hopefully, and report back.
That is a beautiful platter to talk about a couple subjects today. But I mean, we can go 2 different routes. Adidas, they're really not afraid to work with other brands. So Allbirds, like you just said, very techy. They get tied into a lot with like Toms. They probably get tied into a lot of those all waterproof shoes. What are they called? Like the waterproof sneaker. I've been seeing them everywhere. Don't remember the name of them.
Yeah.
But
One that starts with a V.
Yeah. But that lumping of brands. Adidas not being afraid, right? They're not too big. I mean, to them also, it must be some level of like, I am giant, you are comparatively not giant. So
Yeah.
I'm not challenged by you, as said the three stripes. But
and honestly, like a step further, sorry to cut you off. A step further on that is like, you've got to think that Adidas is probably more likely to be in a relationship with a smaller brand and then acquire that brand. Whether they've invested in Allbirds or not prior to this, I actually do not know.
Mm-hmm.
But it reminds me of like, you know, Nike and SB in the early days, you know, investing in Xavier, right?
Yep.
Like that's kind of how these brands keep a finger on the pulse of like the world surrounding the sneakerhead or, you know, community. And to me, like, it's actually smart, right? Because like, let's say Allbirds does expand into more like sneaker focused designs at some point. Adidas already has a relationship with them. The odds of Nike coming along and saying, oh, we're going to acquire Allbirds when there's an Adidas Allbirds shoe out there is really probably less likely.
Yeah.
Because they've already kind of claimed that as a partnership. So yeah, it's a really interesting shoe. And I just thought, you know, that those are the reasons why I really was like, wow, one pair of shoes sitting on the back shelf at the Adidas outlet for $10 in my size. I'd rather have it and be able to tell that story someday than not, you know?
And it became an intro to a podcast episode. But I mean, Adidas, so Allbirds, very small, very different. They just did a pre-order, levels to why I wanted to bring this up, a pre-order model collab with Clark's, which is another more, you know, Wallaby, Chucker, you know, Chucka, you know, more of just like a, how do you even describe Clark's, right? I don't even want to say like city, but like dads wear them, but also dads definitely wouldn't wear them. It's like Clark's is just a really interesting brand, but they did a double collab with Adidas and Kith on the pre-order model on a pair of campuses, which I believe are going to do / did very well. It's pre-order, so who knows? But the gorgeous campus upper with just the only part of a Clark that interests me, the outsole. So you have the good part I like and the good part of the bottom, like, and it's Kith. Like wasn't no, I said no just because I'm trying to abstain a little bit. But interesting. What do you think about that? It's Adidas. That's two different other shoe brands in the past like year.
I think it's cool, man. I think it's, you know, I think that Adidas as a business, you know, they've been struggling, you know, obviously losing the partnership with Kanye, and not knowing what to do with all those additional Yeezys, which has probably been beaten into the ground on this podcast and every other sneaker related conversation on the internet. It's they've got to be trying these different things, you know, and to what I was saying earlier is like, if you start to partner with somebody like Allbirds or Clark's, you know, like Clark's, I think Clark's is one of those few brands that's a little bit more independent, you know, like, in that same vein of like, is this a you know, like a dad shoe, a work boot, a hip hop staple, like that weird crossover, like it's never really a sneaker, but it has ties to things that sneakerheads are into, obviously hip hop being the main thing there. I think that it's really like cool to see them trying these types of things and doing the crepe sole. Like that's just you know, might as well, you know, you have those two technologies and, you know, younger me might've been like, yeah, don't fucking change don't ruin the Samba, don't ruin the Clark's, the Wallaby or whatever it is. It's like, at this point, I kind of feel like we're inevitably heading towards these things. I'd rather see the brands like Clark's and Adidas that have those two icons and then merge them than to see someone else take it and do it poorly to try to replicate what that would look like, if that makes sense. So I think that's, you know, it's good for them to be testing the waters all across the board, in my opinion, trying to find these new, you know, potential home run, you know, releases that, you know, you just never know what's going to pop off, especially like now, right? Like I think we're kind of waiting to see what happens next and what the next big trend is, right? We've had the Dunks, we've had the Panda Dunks, we've had the New Balance wave is like obviously taking off. I think there's going to be still a little bit of that carrying on. And like, honestly, that's a threat to Adidas's business, if you ask me. But I do think there's room for somebody to come in and be that new excitement in the sneaker game right now. You're on mute.
I definitely am. So Clark's has been around for almost 200 years, founded by Cyrus and James Clark in 1825. So not a lot of ego there, I don't believe, with working at Adidas. Very quickly, Adidas also working with Gucci. Gucci, no affiliation with the family at all anymore. But again, Adidas not being afraid to go really high, really low, really eco-friendly. Price aside, yes or no, do you like the way the Gucci Adidas stuff looks?
I think they did it the right way this time around. I think the first round was a little too Gucci heavy for me, but they embraced a lot of those legacy, like the ZX8000, that like light blue with the yellow. If it wasn't for the price, what, $800, $900 or something, I can't remember.
For the ZX.
Obviously I am not the target market for that. I might spend that much money on shoes over the course of 5 or 6 pairs, but I definitely am not one to spend that kind of money on one single pair. Although it is really nice looking, and I would imagine that the materials are probably have a wow factor to it that, if you're at that level of spending on Gucci to begin with, now it's cool because you've got sneakers to wear that don't look like cheesy,
right,
remades.
Because that's the biggest thing about Gucci shoes, I think, to you, I, and other sneakerheads. Like they're all right, but why would you ever buy a pair when you have other sneaker options? Yeah. Now with the Adidas partnership, get a little bit of both. What's incredibly funny is collab here, artist, brand, whatever it might be. Reebok has this recreational activities pack that has 5 shoes in it. You can get all 5 shoes for less than the ZX8000, and there's no cosign. Went platinum without a feature like J. Cole. But I think Reebok does really, really cool. I'll die on this mountain, this hill. They did a really good like popsicle ice cream collab like last summer or 2 summers ago that no one ever talks about. But they do fun stuff like that, while also having the no feature those packs. So a lot of brands, I think Adidas and Nike specifically, have fallen away from like releasing 5, 6 colorways of thematically similar shoes and are focusing more on just, dropping the hits with the collaborators. But you can get a Nano X3 for $160 in this really cool kind of smoky colorway with a glow in the dark outsole. You can get a Pump TZ, which is like the old school retro high top basketball, for $180. The Beatnik, which I personally recommend, for $130. LT Court for $110, and the classic leather for $100. So 5 different. You can play basketball, legitimately train, lounge in a more comfortable version 2 other times for the price of one ZX8000. So crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's like they've all kind of carved out like a little kind of unique space with sneakers, right? Where like I think Reebok gets to have more fun than any of the brands.
Oh yeah.
Puma does that occasionally with some of the collabs. Obviously you think of the Rick and Morty stuff, but like, but Puma is kind of like, okay, well, we kind of cater to this like more European look and style with our like Ferrari, BMW, Mercedes, partnerships. Nike is in the like extreme design ISPO world of like, we're just going to be out there doing crazy stuff and seeing what works. And Adidas is like, oh, we're going to test the limits of like collaborations and like what that looks like. So I think it's cool. And obviously like, I think all those brands have really kind of almost like found like sweet spots for themselves, at least for the time being, right? Like that always changes every couple of years and people are like, oh, those are dead. We're going to move on to the next thing. But it's kind of nice to see, Reebok actually continuing to like do what I think is like more thematic and more like, like just like, let's just take this a little bit further and have more fun with it. Right. Like when was the last time you saw Nike make a 5 shoe thing? Like I can't even remember the last time they did a 5 shoe theme pack.
The Have a Nice Day pack. Have a Nike Day. That's close, but it's all Air Maxes. They don't go across different platforms anymore, right? I mean,
and they used to do that a lot with
all the
like
time.
All-Star releases always would have 5 or 6, 7, 8 shoes sometimes.
But now, I mean, it really does. Having fun with it is a great way of describing Reebok. Because I mean, some of them are just god awful ugly, but they're god awful ugly because they leaned so far into what they're working with that, to me, a Nerf pump isn't for Robbie at age 33. But if I'm like 16 and they have a size 12 foot too. Shit, like that's fun to them, but like Nike's Nerf Kevin Durant pack, which is never going to happen again, but like that's going to be way more serious. There's going to be a story and an epilogue to it, and a sneaker zap foyer on a expose on Nerf and the history of Kevin Durant. No, Reebok's like, here's some goofy shoes. They're really fun. You like them, you do. You don't, they're on sale at one point. You might like them more at this price, but like, it's fun. It's all a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you never know when one of those is going to just pop off, right? That's the crazy part about it is like, I think of like, Dunks, right? Like Dunks are like the Nike shoe that the collaborator gets to go craziest on, right? Like a skate shop could come in there and create something completely wild and do an SB Dunk that's just off the wall. That's a bad statement when we're talking about sneakers, but you know what I mean? And I think about like, like I'm a big fan of like the Viotech Dunks. That shoe is ugly, but I love it. Like I think it works. Like I think that a lot of the What the shoes work.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't think of them like 10, 15 years ago. We might not have thought of them as like a cool
Cali Dunks
color theme, but yeah, like all that stuff is like not traditional. And I think Reebok's kind of embraced that in a for like this next era of sneakers, which is pretty
We'll make
cool.
a white, green, and brown shoe. I don't care. Nike's like white, green, and brown. What? But I mean, to kind of pivot a little bit, Nike's bringing back the foam posit, and that's in a bigger way, right? There's a white and black like all-star penny colorway that PE sample that didn't release. There's a red, like a metallic red foam posit that's releasing that looks like the good metallic reds, but these have like a leather overlay, which is not what it's supposed to be. Really bothers me that it's leather. But there's all these foam posits coming, and they've tried stuff like the fishing foam posit, the meteor, the weather, the radar weather map stuff.
Yeah, the weather.
And when Nike tries to go that kind of fun, like Reebok, it's lambasted, right? Like nobody likes it.
Totally.
But foam posits trying it again. Are you interested? Is there a colorway that could come out in the next year and a half in foam posit that makes you buy a foam posit? Or
I like the foam posits. I've only owned one pair my entire life. It was the Coppers. I got them. I traded a friend for the pair and ended up selling them because they were just a little bit too small for me. I would definitely pick up a pair of foam posits. I wouldn't pay full retail for a foam posits just because typically when they come back, they're all over the place, and a handful of the colorways will go on clearance. But actually, you brought up one thing that's really interesting. The foam posits, a lot of people don't look at that shoe and even notice the leather on top of it, right? Like unless you're really into sneakers or really into foams and you're talking about this stuff the way we are on a regular basis. One of the things that I made me think of is like they just the news just came out. I can't remember who said it. Sorry, I shout out the site, but saw that the Bred 4s are going to come back at the end of the year in leather, and that was topic of conversation in the Discord this morning. And I'm wondering, what do you think about leather Bred 4s?
Oh hell yeah! I mean, say I didn't buy Bred 4s, and I don't like Bred 4s because I don't like the material.
Okay.
So if it's leather, I mean, in all honesty, will I buy it? I mean, likely not. But I mean, foam posits are rough because I mean, you brought up you wouldn't want to pay full price for them. But the only colorways I would want, the Royals, right? The Royals are the only ones I can really think of where like I want bad enough. I've owned foam posits in the past, no longer have any pairs. So for me to get back on that train, it has to be a Royal. And because of the state of sneakers, that's going to be not on sale in a size 13. So frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Royals would be top for me too. Like I would obviously love to have that pair. I would also just love to have like an all black pair or like one of those like anthracite colorways that came out a few years back that I should have picked up.
You cannot put the leather on a foot. Yeah. And I'm not even a huge Foamposite stan, but like it hit a weird tick with me. I wanted to talk about this like 2 episodes ago and we just never had a chance to. But yeah, seeing leather on the ice stay area of a Foamposite was supposed to be that nubuck dirt, not even full nubuck, right? It's like that little felt feeling. Oh my God, it drives me insane. So let's end on one last thing that also drives me insane. And I feel like I'm in the minority here. The Big Bubble Air Max 1. Couple points. Did you care? Did you buy the white, red? And do you care? Would you buy if more colorways came out? I saw a couple leaked photos of other colorways using that shape. And all the comments is reading through. I'm like, oh, don't overdo this. Do one. Why you gotta blah, 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 blah. Don't do it. Don't do it. Keep this shoe that's never been released until 2023 sacred. I think that's what really gets me kind of like, oh, you're such a Big Bubble fan. Like, do you have a pair from 86 that are falling apart that never got released? Like, you love them that much? But like, yeah, I didn't buy, don't care. I would like to see other colorways and I would buy at the employee store for 40% off. But I don't care about it being a Big Bubble. Like the whole story, it's just like over my head. What's your take on it?
So I think I'm kind of in between the two extremes on that. Like I tried to get the red ones. I think, historically it's a really important shoe. I kind of like to have all of those like stories to be able like, oh yeah, this is the difference type of thing. I would hate to see it become just another Air Max shoe. You know what I mean? Like to your point, like we see so many colorways of Air Max 1s already. We see so many collabs. We see tons of colorways of the Air Max 90. We see tons of colorways of the Air Max 95. We see collabs across all those. Do we really need another shoe that looks so similar to the Air Max 1? If Nike's like, hey, we're going to drop this because it's anniversary year or whatever, and we're going to do it for the next 12 months, cool, run with it. Cut back the number of regular Air Max 1s that you're dropping so we're not just flooded with them. But I don't know. I can also understand, right? Like it's one of those things where like it does keep it special when it's limited to a few colorways, right? Like we've talked about it before, and like the Jordan 4 is a good example. Like when the shoe first came out, you only had 4 choices, right? So, when the threes came out, you only had a few choices. So like that kept it special for those years. Obviously everything is completely different at this point, but it would be super weird if, like all of a sudden there's a Kith, Air Max 1 Big Bubble in a couple of months, and like they try to frame some story around it when like the only real story that you're trying to tell with that shoe is the red colorway. It didn't work originally. Nobody believed it would work, and they persevered and made some other version, and that became popular, right?
So I mean, what's super? I didn't think about this until you just said it, but you said a shoe so similar to the Air Max 1. It is the Air Max 1. Like a very easy example is like a LeBron. At any point when they're doing a postseason shoe, a LeBron 7 and the LeBron 7 PS are a different shoe. Like they are visually different. Are they really that different? No, but visually there are design cues that only exist on one and not the other. The Big Bubble is just like a busted. It's like Bizarro Superman and Superman. It's like, yeah, Bizarro Superman is a character. He's in the DC lineage, but he's just a busted looking Superman that's not as strong. And it's like, why is that a story?
Now, see, like the exception to that is like if they were like, oh, these were I don't remember how many actual original Air Max 1 colorways there are. Forgive me for not being the proper sneaker historian right now. But let's say there was the red joints, the blue joints, and like maybe 3 other colorways that they sampled back then. In that case, make 5 Big Bubbles, make them all those original colors that you tried to do that didn't release, and cool, you're done with it. But like, it doesn't really make sense for them to do both an Air Max 1 and an Air Max 1 Big Bubble, because honestly, like the people that give a shit about the Air Max 1 Big Bubble in terms of like the importance to the story, they probably only care about 1 colorway, maybe 2. If you consider the Royal blue version because it would have been the women's version, right? But otherwise, like you're just continuing to flood the market with a bunch of options that ultimately, I think it takes away from when good things come out from a model, right?
Yeah.
Like we've talked about, you know, not I obviously love Reebok and love questions, have a massive amount of them, many of them thanks to Reebok, you know, but like there are definitely times where I would love to see that shoe disappear for a little while so I can find the love for it and come back to it and see like, oh man, I should have never let that pair get away. I should have, you know, like doubled up on that pair. Like, and you have to miss it at times in order to want it again.
Oh, you have
opinion.
to. I mean,
kind of what you're talking about the foam posits, right? Like I know you and I don't have foams right now, but if Royal Foams popped up on the sneakers app tomorrow, we would both be texting about it. Like, okay, do you know anybody else that can enter for us to get a 13? You know, like that's just how it is. And I think that I hope from all the comments you're talking about, I hope that's how people are thinking about it. Because that's really the only way I can really justify it. Otherwise, it just seems like people are just hating just to hate.
If you think about this critically, listeners, if you don't really miss a shoe that's retroing, why do you want? Like, you need to have a look at yourself and be like, why do you want it? Just so other people think it's cool. So it's like the status quo. So you can like, why? Because if you don't, with retro specifically, new models, you can't miss it. It's a new thing. But the Air Max 1, I mean, I just sold mine like 3 months ago. I had the 2017 pair. Didn't care. I mean, I don't miss these, right? I just had them and let them go. But what's really kind of interesting is Nike actually didn't like charge an extra $50 for the Big Bubble. It says 150 here, and then like their Air Max 1 premium, like super premium stuff, is like 160. So like,
yeah,
they actually didn't. I figured they were going to do a Nike thing and make it more expensive. But it's just like, why?
That definitely makes me think they're going to do a bunch more colorways, right?
Dude, they're going to do
whatever it costs.
I mean, my big thing is like, I guarantee you there wasn't going to be an Air Max Big Bubble till about a year and a half ago. They were making the trillionth Air Max 1 of the year, and somebody just messed up the midsole. They messed up the tooling, and they're like, oh crap, we have like 300,000 of these like kind of wrong midsole toolings. Story time. Like, why didn't Kennedy? Where you at, bro? We need to spin this. God, one day.
Could you imagine if that's how all of the like prototype things happen, where they like just accidentally remade something that looked like a prototype?
I mean,
we find out some like we need like a Tinker Hatfield tell-all book of like, no, these are all sketches that I drew like when the shoe was released, not back in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's just like I drew the sketch to match the story that we had to force.
I mean, nowadays it's all just like a digital rendition of like a desk that was Tinker's with a sketch of an Air Max that definitely somebody in 2023 drew the entire thing and they photoshopped it all together. So like, but no, that's my big conspiracy theory is like they just fucked up some Air Max 1 midsoles and they had a lot of them and they're like, this climate, we cannot take this loss. So we're repurposing, because when you just look at it, and again, this is just revisionist history because we know what the Air Max 1 looks like. It sits on the shoe. Like the tooling doesn't fit the back of the shoe right, in my opinion. Like it doesn't, it looks like somebody, one of the great customizers out there in the world looks like, oh shit, I'm going to put an Air Max 95 midsole on, you know, this Air Max. No, that's too crazy. You know, like an Air Max stab on an Air Max 90, right? It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It rubs me the wrong way. I don't like it. End topic.
All right. Yeah. Well, let us know what you think. Drop a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave us a review and let us know if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else. But, you know, most importantly, just hop in the Discord. Like we can have this discussion in the Discord with a bunch of folks. I definitely think there's some good debates to be had about this. And I think we'll probably continue to have some as the new colorways come out too, because it's one of those things that I think I was actually surprised how opinionated people were around the Big Bubble Air Max actually coming out. So.
Why did Kennedy? Again, there's like people are going to talk about this shoe. You're going to sell more Air Max 1s now and more Air Max 1 Big Bubbles in the next 9 months. So I'm Robbie. You can find me at Conspiracy Theories. Just kidding. Make sure you're following at Sneaker History on all major platforms. everything. We're just about on everything. So thanks for listening, folks.
Catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Hey everyone, this is Nick again. Before you take off, do us a solid and head over to Apple Podcasts to leave us a review. Give us a rating on Spotify and Amazon Music, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel because we have even more video content coming soon. Speaking of new content, we have an amazing community of sneaker enthusiasts that hang out in our Sneaker History Discord on a daily basis. While sneakers is a connection point that brought us all together, we've all discovered countless shared passions that we have in common with each other. We recently launched a couple of new podcasts directly from our community. One of them is a Formula One podcast. If you're an F1 fan like me, the Exhaust Notes podcast is your weekly fix of Formula One fun. It's hosted by myself, Rohit Malhotra, and Todd Yates. New episodes drop every Tuesday. I've been wearing fitted hats for years and collecting my favorite teams since I was a little leaguer. It has been awesome to see so many new fans getting into fitteds in recent years. Crown and Stitch is our new talk show about fitted hats with Dexter, Keith, and myself, where we talk about fitted hats, snapbacks, throw in some obscure hats because we all kind of like some funky stuff once in a while, don't we? Copping, collecting, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Hit the links in the show notes for this episode to give our new shows a listen, and be on the lookout for more new podcasts dropping soon. Last but not least, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Thank you all for the support, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.